Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I have a book unhaul for you. I'm going to be unhauling all of these books here beside me. It's obviously a rather large stack, so let's just get right into it. So I mentioned in my New Year reading goals / channel changes video that I had sort of had some changes in thought when it comes to what kind of books I want to own versus like books that I'm okay just reading once and not continuing to keep on my shelves. And so this is sort of the result of that. There are honestly a ton more books I could have gotten rid of, but I am trying to do this sort of slowly so that I can, read the books that I want to read before I donate them, even though I don't think they're ones that I'm going to keep forever. But these are the ones that I decided right off the bat, like I'm never going to read these, or I have read them and I don't see myself reading them again. So we're going to start off with this book, which is the book that actually started this all. So if you watched my used book sale hauls from, I think this was the spring one from last year, I purchased this book, and when I purchased it I said I had two Christmas books in my hand at the time, and I knew one of them was one that people weren't really loving, but I couldn't remember which one it was, so I bought them both and sort of put them both on my shelf, kind of forgot about them. And then this year I saw Haley in Bookland read this book, and she absolutely hated it. I highly recommend reading her Goodreads review for this. She has a spoiler and a non-spoiler section for this book. I'm going to talk about both a little bit. I will tell you when I'm going to talk about spoilers because it's a big reason why I'm getting rid of this. But I read her spoiler-free section of her review, and I was kind of like, okay, you know what, I've seen enough people say they don't like this book at this point that I am no longer interested in reading it, so I might as well read her spoiler section. And when I did, I was so mad and honestly so glad that I read it. I think honestly you probably should know the spoilers going into this because it's really more of like a trigger warning than anything, and I think that that should be something that people know. So like whether or not you want to listen to the spoilers is up to you, but I'm about to talk about them, so I'll put a timestamp on the screen if you want to skip. But basically this book is 90% of this book is the two of them falling in love, and it's like Christmassy, I think, it's during the winter Christmas vibes, and they're falling in love, and you know that he's kind of keeping a secret from her. You don't know what that secret is, and based on Haley's review it sounded like you kind of got the hint that he was maybe sick, like maybe he had some sort of illness he wasn't telling her about or something. And then at the 90% mark of this book, like I said, these are definitely spoilers, he dies out of nowhere. He had terminal cancer. He didn't tell the girl that he had terminal cancer. He knew he was dying, didn't bother telling her, and that's how the book ends, is he's dead and she's alone. Like, I can't believe that this is published the way it is, because I know for me personally, like a couple years ago, I had a family member pass away from cancer very close to Christmas, and I can't imagine, like, in that year, if I had picked up this book thinking like, oh, it's gonna be a light, Christmas romance that'll take my mind off things, and picking this up and reading that, like, I can only imagine the damage this book could do to someone who wasn't knowing what they were picking up and was in the wrong place in their life to be reading this. And so honestly, like, I will probably never read another book from this author solely because she did that with this book, and I just think that it's like so wrong that she did that, because she shouldn't have. There should be some sort of warning that this is not a romance book, because it literally defies the entire requirement of a romance book, and yet it's being marketed as a romance. So really not a fan. Like I said, I won't pick anything else up from this author ever again. I'm actually donating this back to the used book sale that I purchased it from. But honestly, this was the first book I actually thought about just like throwing this out, because I genuinely don't want someone picking this up like I did at the used book sale thinking like, oh, it's a cute Christmas romance, and then ending up with this. Like, I genuinely was toying with the idea of just throwing this right in the garbage, because I don't think people should read this like that badly. But anyway, this was the book that started this whole unhaul. I created a donation box solely to put this book in it, because I was like, I don't want this on my shelves, I don't want it in my room, I don't want to look at it anymore, like, it was just making me so angry. So that is how this whole thing started, so this one is obviously going. So a lot of these books that I'm getting rid of are mostly like YA books that I'm just not going to pick up. I think I've gotten rid of the last of the YA contemporaries that I have. I may have like 2 or 3 on my shelf still, But almost all of them I'm getting rid of because I'm just not going to read that. I know I'm not going to read that. There's so many other things that I would want to read before I would read those. So that's what most of this is. This first one is like something that I did think about keeping for sentimental value, but honestly, I read this once and I'm not going to pick this up again. This is The Season of You and Me by Robin Constantine. This was the very first book I read in 2020 that started me down this book journey and ended up here, like with BookTube and everything. So it's kind of got like a special place in my heart, but also at the same time, I'm not going to pick this up again or read it again. And it's just a cute, like, YA, like, she's a camp counselor, she falls for the other camp counselor kind of thing. It was cute, but like I said, I'm not going to read it again. Then we have Far From You by Tess Sharp. Honestly, I remember this one, I think is YA. I want to say this has something to do with drugs and something like I literally don't even know. But I do know that I have not had the urge to pick this up in like the 2 years that I've owned it. And I don't think that that's going to happen anytime in the future, so I'm just going to get rid of that one at this point. Love Songs and Other Lies by Jessica Pennington. This one sounded sort of interesting. It's like, you know, like a YA, like, rock star romance type thing. But honestly, I have so many books that fall into that category that I don't think I need to keep this one in particular. So this one is going to go as well. Then this one is one that I went back and forth on. This is The Geography of Lost Things by Jessica Brody. I love the cover of this book. I think it just reminds me of, like, summer vibes, like, this to me is like the perfect cover for a YA summer book. But realistically, I'm not going to pick this up. It is so long. It's like 440 pages. And I'm like, there are books that I know are going to be 5-star reads that are 400 pages that I also won't pick up because they're 450 pages. And so the odds of me ever picking this up are just so slim. And this one also has like this chip in the corner that has like bothered me since I purchased it. And so I'm just gonna donate this one at this point. I'm hoping that, like, obviously these end up with someone who's actually going to read them because that person's not me. And this is Freshman by Tom Ellen and Lucy Iveson. I just feel like I'm past my college phase. Like, maybe not, like, I would still read, like, a new adult sports romance that's set in college, but something like this that's more just, like, a, like, freshman starting college, like, YA coming of age type thing, like, not really up my alley anymore. So that one is gonna go. Next, for whatever reason, something possessed me when I first started buying books that I just, like, was convinced I had to own every Morgan Matson book, and so I bought all of them from Book Outlet. And honestly, every single one of her books is a brick, and they're all, like, over 440 pages, and, like, I'm just not gonna pick this up. I don't even think there's romance in these books, so I don't know. I think there's, like, probably a teenager out there, you know, like a 14-year-old or something, that will love these books and cherish them, and that person is just not me. And so I got rid of anything, honestly, that was over 400 pages that didn't have, like, a adult romance theme to it because I just know I'm not going to pick that up. Next is Everything Everything by Nicola Yoon. This is the movie cover. I actually bought this, like, pre my BookTube book reading era. I just bought this at Costco one day. And I've never read it. I will probably never read it. If I do, I'll just get the book from the library. They have tons of copies. And I don't love the, like, movie edition of the cover, so like if I really loved this and I wanted to own it, I would buy the regular cover. So that is going to go as well. Then we have Open Road Summer by Emery Lord. This is another one that is just like way too long, no romance, I don't think. It's just like a YA kind of summer story, and I definitely played around with keeping some of these because sometimes in the summer I am like in a YA sort of mood, but I just think there's so many that I would read before I would pick this up. The spine on this one is also kind of like crooked, which it doesn't sit on the shelf properly, so I don't love that either, so that one is going. Next is Fame Adjacent by Sarah Skilton. This one I think is like a girl that was on a show that was super popular back in the day, and now all of the other actors from it are super famous and she's just not, and she kind of gets left out of things. And like I said, no romance, YA, I'm not going to read this. Like, there will never come a point where I'm bored enough that I will pick this up. So that is going to go. Anatomy of a Misfit by Andrea Portez. I don't even know what this is. It looks YA. It's sort of like the girl that doesn't fit in, I guess. The font is like ginormous. Like, this is like definitely like super YA. Not something I'm ever going to pick up, so that is going to go. Then we have The Unexpected Everything by Morgan Matson. Again, another Morgan Matson, because I was convinced I had to own all of them for whatever reason. And I only kept one. I kept Second Chance Summer because that's the one that I think if I was going to read one, I would read that one. But all of these are just huge and like I'm not going to read them. So they're going. Then we have Midnight Sun by Trish Cook. This is another one that I think I've had since before I got into reading. The font in this is ginormous too. This is the movie cover, again, from when the movie came out. I did watch this movie when it came out. It was okay. I don't really remember much, to be honest. I used to be like a really big Bella Thorne fan, and so that was why I bought this and was interested in it. But honestly, at this point, like, I'm not going to read this. I've had this since it like came out, which was a long time ago, and I'm not going to read it. So that can go. Next we have Cress by Marissa Meyer. I have 2 copies of this. I have a hardcover and a paperback, so I'm getting rid of the paperback, even though it is like really gorgeous, but I don't need 2 copies of the same book. So that one is going to go. Then we have The Saturday Night Ghost Club by Craig Davidson. I did actually read this one this past year. I listened to the audiobook, and it just like wasn't what I was hoping. I wanted like a really cute, like little Halloween spooky season ghost story, and this was just too like introspective for me. Like it really wasn't very much of a ghost story, and I didn't really love that, so I don't feel the need to continue owning this. So that will be going. Then we have The Bro Code by Elizabeth A. Seibert. I bought a ton of books like this from Book Outlet a while back because I was going to do a Wattpad book video, but honestly, like, I haven't really read any Wattpad books that were worth recommending other than maybe Cupid's Match. Like, if I was going to recommend one, that would be it. I just haven't really loved any of these, and I think they're all very YA and like not things that I would enjoy now. So I'm getting rid of this one. My library also has it, so like if I ever did want to do that video, I can just get it from them. I don't need to own this. And then we have Famous in a Small Town by Emma Mills. This was 100% a cover buy. I think the cover of this book is gorgeous, but I'm never going to read this. It's not even a romance. It's literally just about this girl that's trying to get this actor to come back to her town to like save something, I would guess. But I'm not interested in that. I will never pick this up. Like I said, I thought the cover was cute, but like I'm not going to read this. And then we have 2 books that go together. This is The QB Bad Boy and Me by Tay Marley and The Summer of '98 by Tay Marley. This one I did read, and I did enjoy it like enough at the time, but I don't know that I would read it again, and I think I would have to read this again to really appreciate this. This is like a spin-off book. It is the parents from one of the kids in this book's story, and honestly, like, it was a typical like YA football romance. Like, I don't really remember much about it, and I don't think I'll ever go back to reread it to read this. So I'm just going to get rid of both of them, and hopefully someone else will enjoy those. Then we have Meant to Be by Lauren Morrill. This is, I don't know, some kind of YA romance. The cover's really cute, but not something I'm ever going to pick up. I don't even know what this is about, but I don't really care either. Then we have The Maze Runner, which is another book that I had 2 copies of. I got this one for Christmas a couple years ago, and then I actually found a boxed set of the whole series at my used book sale that I go to, so I bought that, and so I'm going to donate this one because I don't need 2 copies, obviously. Then we have another Morgan Matson. This is Amy and Roger's Epic Detour. Again, I only kept one of her books because I really don't think I need to own all of them because I'm just not going to read them. And so this one is going as well. Now we are moving on to this stack, which actually goes all the way down to the floor, so it's a rather large stack. This is The Beginning of Everything by Robin Schneider. It says Everyone Gets a Tragedy, which honestly does not sound like something I want to read. That was another thing that I filtered out when I went through these books, was I got rid of anything that sounded like it was about people dying or could end with people dying, because I just don't like reading that. Like, there's so much of that going on already in the world. I don't need books about it. So this obviously sounds like it's not going to be a happy ending, so I don't really want to read that. So that can go. Next we have An Abundance of Catherines by John Green. I have read 2 John Green books and haven't really loved either of them. I've read Looking for Alaska and Paper Towns, and I thought they were both just kind of eh. And I don't really feel the need to read any more of his work. I think it is just like beyond me. Like, I'm not into the, like, I don't know, coming of age, like introspective, like, oh, this is the deeper meaning of life kind of thing in teen books. Like, that's just not what I'm into. And so I don't think I need to read this. I don't feel like I will ever read this. And so that's gonna go. Then we have Through to You by Lauren Barnholt. This one, I remember I read something on the back that made me think I was gonna hate this, but that's why it is going. It's just, a lot of these were bought when I first started like BookTube and I first started reading, and I didn't really know what I liked at the time. I didn't know which tropes to avoid, which things that I just didn't like in books. So I have a ton of books that are like tropes that I hate, or like little snippets of things that I hate in them, and I didn't know that at the time when I bought them, so now I have to get rid of them because obviously I know I'm not going to like them, and that I think was one of them. Then we have Every Last Word by Tamara Ireland Stone. This book I actually wouldn't mind keeping, but I bought this from Book Outlet and it came with like this brown, I don't even know if you can see that, like on the side there. And I'm just like not in love with that. And I think I'll read this from the library, and if it's something that I really truly love and want to own, I'll buy a nicer copy of it. And so that is going to go as well. Then we have Someone Else's Summer by Rachel Bateman. This one, her sister Storm dies in a car accident on the night of her graduation, and then she finds her sister's summer bucket list, so she does it. I am really not into that anymore. That was like a big thing that I got rid of too, was like anything that was like a bucket list of somebody else's or a road trip or anything like that, like is just gone. I'm not into any of that, so it's all just leaving. So that one is going. Then we have Both of Me by Jonathan Friesen. This one I think is the one where, yeah, she accidentally changes carry-on luggage with a guy and then something happens. I don't know, like really, that doesn't sound that interesting to me, but at some point it obviously did because I bought it. But now I'm like, I'm never gonna read that. And then we have Will Grayson, again by John Green, and this one is also by David Levithan. I'm not gonna read this. This is actually from my cousin. She was I don't know if she still is, she was a very big John Green fan, and I don't know if she had like 2 copies of this or something, but she gave this one to me. And I'm just, like I said, I haven't loved any of his stuff that I have read, and I'm not really dying to give him another shot because I've already read 2 things that I didn't really like. So this one is just going to be donated. I always feel kind of bad donating books like that I haven't read, but especially like the YA books I feel a little bit better about, because the last time I went to this used book sale, I was surprised how many like teens were actually there and like younger kids. And so I don't feel as bad knowing that like those kids are going to buy the books and then they're going to have them and they'll probably actually read them. So that's part of what like made me a little more open to getting rid of some of these books when I probably wouldn't have otherwise. This is The History of Jane Doe by Michael Bellinger. I don't know what this is about. I'm pretty sure this is just contemporary. I don't think there's any romance in it. Just not interested anymore. Then we have Love and Luck by Jenna Evans Welch. This is a Book Outlet book that looks really dirty. And honestly, I think this is the second book. I haven't even read the first book, and I don't know that I ever will. And so I don't need to own the second book because I probably will never read the first one. And then we have Alex and Eliza by Melissa de la Cruz. I have come to realize that one of the things that I really, really hate in my romance books is like royalty and like old-timey royalty and just like all of that. Like I hate that. Like I think that means I probably wouldn't like historical romance, but I feel like that's kind of what this is, but like a YA historical romance sort of. But I don't think I'm gonna like this, and so this is gonna go. Then these next 2 books I bought because the covers were gorgeous, and I thought these were like YA, sort of like Princess Diaries-esque type books. They looked really pretty, they looked really fun, and then I got them and I looked at how big the font was on the inside, and I was just like, okay, these are written for like children, which is like not a terrible thing, but it's like not what I thought when I was buying either. So I think I'm gonna let these go. I'm never gonna read these. They're just too young for me in what they're about. Like there's certain books, like obviously Harry Potter is like technically middle grade, right? Isn't it? And like I would read that, and like same with Percy Jackson, but like this is just not something that I would pick up. So these are gonna go, and hopefully some kid at the book sale finds them and loves them. Then we have another John Green book. This is The Fault in Our Stars. I've had this since this came out, and I have not read it. I don't want to read it. I don't know anything about this, so this is not me like giving spoilers, but like I just have this feeling someone dies, right? Like they're both in like a cancer support group. Like I can't see that ending well for them. And I don't want to read that. Like I said, like I'm getting rid of books that are like that. Anything that might even allude to death being a possible option at the end of a book, I don't want to read. So that is going as well. Then we have these books. These again are a little bit nostalgic. This is one of the early books that I read in the time of my booktube as well. This is Surviving Adam Mead by Shannon Clare. And I read this. I liked it at the time. Couldn't tell you anything about it now. And I did buy this, Last Chance Summer, by the same author, because I used to love summer camp romances. Like, I was obsessed with them. I bought every book I could find that was a summer camp counselor romance. And so I bought this one, but I tried reading this once and I DNF'd on page 7. So I don't think I need to keep either of these. This one I found was it was too YA. Like the whole first 7 pages that I read were this girl talking about how she had to go to this party and be the popular girl, and she wanted to, you know, up her social standing in the school, and I just like could not care any less about that. So these are gonna go. Then we have Barnum by Robert Wilson. This is obviously like a nonfiction book about like the circus. Is it a family? I don't know. I like went through this phase where I was like, I'm gonna read all these genres and I'm gonna, you know, just read a little bit of everything and I'm gonna be so like, you know, worldly and whatever. And I'm not gonna do that. I'm really not. I'm gonna read romance all day every day and be fine with that. And so I'm never gonna read this. So this is gonna go as well. Then we have The List by Siobhan Vivian. I think, yeah, I actually bought this at the book sale and donating it back to you as well. This is just a YA, I think. I don't think it's even a romance. I had this on my radar at the time, and when I found it at the book sale, I just recognized the cover and I was like, oh my god, I wanted this, and I didn't really take into account that I no longer would want it because it was a YA. And so I bought it. It was only like $1, so it wasn't like, you know, a huge deal, but I'm not going to read this. I don't need it. It can go back to the book sale and hopefully someone else can find it and love it. And then we have a couple more books from my cousin. My cousin has very different reading taste than I do. So this is Vasa in the Night by Sarah Porter. I read this. It's something to do with like Russian folklore and something like, I don't know. I'm not going to read this. So this is going to go as well. And then we have Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, which I know is like a relatively popular book. This is another one from my cousin. I don't know. She didn't like this one. I just don't really think I'm going to ever read this. If I did, I could get it from the library because there's like a million copies of it there. But I don't need to own this. It's taking up space on my shelf and I may never read it. Then we have The Thousandth Floor by Catherine McGee. This is another one from my cousin. I don't know what this is about. I did read the synopsis of these when I got rid of them. The cover's like really nice on the inside though. But I'm just not going to read this. It's like in the future or something. I don't know. Not my thing. That's going to go. This next book is kind of funny because this is like, I go through these phases every once in a while, and I mentioned this in my New Year like goal video as well, where when my videos aren't doing as well as I want them to, I start thinking that like, oh, I need to start doing videos in other genres, and so I start buying all these books in other genres. But like, realistically, I don't want to read other genres really, and there's so many romance subgenres that I haven't even tried, and I want to focus more on that this year. So like, I really looked at like a lot of the books that I was owning in other genres, and I'm like, am I actually going to read this? Like, similar to like this, like, I'm not going to read this. It's just not going to happen. And that's sort of the same with this, Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Booley. This was a definite cover buy. Honestly, to me though, like the biggest red flag is that this is a Reese's Book Club pick. I have hated every single book that I've read from Reese's Book Club, and so I actively avoid books that she promotes because I've never liked any of them. And this is very, very long and not a romance, and I don't see me reading this, and I'm sure there's someone out there who is like dying to get their hands on this book, and it's just not me. So that's gonna go. Then we have The Diabolic by S.J. Kincaid. This is another one from my cousin. I don't really remember what this is about, but it doesn't really look like something I would like. It sounds like space-esque. What's that called? Sci-fi? That's so not my thing, as you can tell. So like, I'm not going to pick this up. Someone else will probably love that 10 times more than I will. Then we have a couple more YAs here. This is The Falling Between Us by Ash Parsons. I'm not going to read this. It's a YA. It's going. Then we have The Other Side of Lost by Jessie Kirby. I'm pretty sure I bought this at the time because it was about a YouTuber, and I thought that was interesting. Yeah, she has thousands of social media followers, and she's, you know, ends up hiking in the woods and finding herself and whatever, and I'm not into that anymore. I don't care about that, so this is gonna go. And that is the end of that stack, so now we will move on to this final stack over here. So this is Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne, obviously like the classic. I bought this in my very first book outlet order thinking like, oh, of course I'm gonna read like classics, and I'm not gonna do that. So this is gonna go. I was thinking about it and I was like, you know what, if I ever wanted to actually own a collection of classics, I would buy like a nice set. I wouldn't want like this little tiny little book, so that is gonna go. Then we have I See London, I See France by Sarah Mlynowski. This is a YA, and also, I don't know why, I just don't love books that are set in like Europe, and I think it's because I've never been there that like, I know a lot of people like reading them because it reminds them of their time in Europe or whatever, and like, I've just never been there. I've never had like a burning desire to go there. Like, would I like to? Sure, but it's not like the top of my bucket list. And so I just like am not drawn to these books as much as I find other people are, and so I don't really need this, so that's gonna go. We also have The Duff by Cody Keplinger. Again, during my like Bella Thorne phase, I wanted this. This is the movie cover with her on it. I've never read this. I did watch the movie of this as well, but I'm not going to read the book. I have no need to read the book. I've seen the movie, and that was enough for me. Next, this one I did play around with a lot. This is the Simon Verse novels by Becky Albertalli, and it has Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, The Upside of Unrequited, and Leah on the Offbeat. And I bought this early on in my booktube time from Book Outlet, so like it was relatively cheap. But I don't think I'm going to read these. These are like very YA books, I think, and I don't know that there's even romances in them. There might be. I know that Simon is like an important book to be out there, so I feel like I don't need to be hoarding that on my shelf and I'm not going to read it. And I would love for this to like fall into the hands of someone who actually would, you know, like fall in love with these books and enjoy them and whatever, and that's just not going to be me because I will probably never read them because they're YA. And so there are, you know, people that will enjoy that more. Then we have Kissing Max Holden by, who's this by? Katie Upperman. I don't know. The cover's cringy, the title's kind of cringy, like, I just don't see me picking this up ever. I always think, like, when I'm looking at books and I'm unhauling, I'm like, would I read this or would I go on Kindle Unlimited and find something else? And if the answer is I would go on Kindle Unlimited and find something else, then I don't need to own the book. So that's kind of like why that one's there. Then we have another John Green book. This is Paper Towns. This is the movie cover. If I ever really had like a burning desire to own this book, I would want the regular cover. I don't even really like this cover, and like the price sticker didn't come off very nicely, so it's just like not something I need to own. This is the copy that I read when I read it, but like I said, I just wasn't super impressed with this. I thought it was kind of stupid, to be honest, but I don't need to own that. Someone else will probably love it. Then we have A Boyfriend Summer by Michelle Dalton, and this is another like big brick of a book for a YA romance. This was another one that I kind of thought about keeping because I was like, oh, it could be cute, you know, a cute little lighthearted summer romance. But like there are so many other ones that I will read before I will pick this up, so I don't need something this big taking up space on my shelf. So that is going to go. Then we have Before I Fall by Lauren Oliver. This is one of the ones that I think has something to do with death, and I was like, yeah, okay, that's gonna go. Oh, it turns out to be her last day of life. Yeah, see, I don't want to read that. And so that's why this one is in the pile, and it's also huge, so I'm just never gonna get around to that. This is Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. I, again, bought this back when I first got into reading, and this one was a really popular one I was seeing around everywhere. But it is just a YA contemporary. I'm not gonna pick this up. Someone else, I'm sure, will love it. So that's gonna go. And we have the last couple books here. So we have another Morgan Matson. This is Save the Date. Again, I don't know why I thought I had to own all of these because I never read any of them and I'm never going to. But this one can go. And then I have Obsidian by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is another one that I actually bought at that book sale and I'm donating back because I bought the bind-ups there as well. So I have the bind-ups of the entire series. So this is the first book, I think. So I don't need 2 copies of it. So this one is going to go back to where it came from, ironically. Then we have Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia. Again, a very, very long YA contemporary. There's just like, I look at these books and I'm like, there is like a 14-year-old out there that is going to go to this book sale and be so excited to find these books, and they're actually going to take them home and read them, which is so much better than me just like having them on my shelves and not even displayed on my shelves. A lot of these books were kind of like behind my bed, behind my shelves. Like if you've seen my videos, you know where I normally filmed last year was like there's shelves behind my bed and there's like shelves that go below my bed, and so these were all just kind of stacked below my bed. Like you couldn't even see them, they weren't even being displayed, and so I just hope they go to like a home where people will love them and actually read them. And so there's that one. And then we have Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I read this, it was okay. I read One Last Stop, I DNF'd it. I just have decided that Casey McQuiston is not for me. This one in particular, the thing I didn't like about it was, and I don't know, maybe I'm just like stupid for not picking up on this, but there's too much politics in here for me. I didn't love that. I don't know why I didn't see that coming given the title, but I don't know. I just didn't love that. I don't think it helped that I'm Canadian, so I didn't understand, like I have no like base knowledge really of like the American political system or the like royal family really, so I just like didn't understand a lot of the references that I think I was supposed to understand. And also I didn't have internet when I read this. I was like at a cottage, so I couldn't even Google the things I didn't understand, and I feel like that just really ruined my reading experience entirely, was that I just like didn't get it. I'm probably actually going to give this to my sister because this is more like up her alley than it is mine, but I just don't need to keep this on my shelf because I won't be collecting the rest of Casey's books, and so I don't need this one random one that I didn't even really love. And so that is everything for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below, and I will see you next time.